All right, guys, real quickly, if you're looking for the tech stuff, the timestamp for it starts right here below me. I am going to do this right now for guys who are subscribers who may or may not have seen the post that we put up about me getting COVID. So that starts now. Basically, on the 17th, I contracted COVID from somewhere. I don't know where I got it from. I don't even really give a crap where I got it from. But unfortunately, I also gave it to Cam the next day because I thought I just had a really bad cold coming on. And in fact, it was COVID. Got tested on the 20th, found out I had COVID, went to the hospital a couple of days later, spent 8 hours in the waiting room at the hospital to be seen for about 15 minutes. That is not an indictment of the hospital. That is just how sick a lot of people are around here right now. And it wasn't just all COVID patients. There was a lot of different people in there, but it was a pretty bad day. And I was really concerned about myself. Excuse me, I'm still having coughing issues from the COVID, which is what this is all about. We're going to probably be slowing down just a little bit as far as heavy hardcore production. We will be continuing on with the engine bay detailing on the 67 Mustang, but we may have to back off for a couple of weeks because Cam and I both are very weak from the COVID. It's been affecting my breathing. I have gotten the COVID pneumonia, so I'm going to be coughing a little bit sometimes maybe. I'll try to cover that up in post, but I may not be able to get it completely covered up. So my voice is a little scratchy and things are a little bit off for me right now, and I am just incredibly weak from having been basically bedridden for 2 weeks. So we are going to try and do as much as we possibly can in the coming weeks, but we may lighten the load up a little bit in production. We are also in the middle of trying to get the building put up. We have concrete poured in certain areas. What I'm showing you right now is just a touch of what we're going to be doing when we do the talking points on the building construction. All that to be said, thank you for the guys who wrote in, said nice things to me, prayed for me. That's been amazing. That was probably the biggest apple in my eye. We had people send stuff in. It was just really great to see the support for the show and for me and Cam by comparison. I mean, a lot of people don't know, but like I said, he also got sick. He didn't get as sick as I did, but he is still finding himself to be a bit weak. For a guy like Cam that's used to picking up engine blocks and stuff, this is kind of a mind blower. Anyway, let's get on with the episode here, folks. Thanks for watching this portion of it if you stuck around for this. If not, well, you just missed out. Because, you know, you get that little tender moment with me before the episode starts, where we were really tired and it was really hot.
Oh, so hot. It's like bajillions of degrees hot. It's Africa hot. Tarzan couldn't take this kind of hot. Let me know in the comments if you get the movie reference. Some of you older guys probably will. Young guys, you won't have a clue. Anyway, so what we're working on today is we're going to start moving the wiring around in this engine bay, hopefully being able to clean it up and neaten it up. We've got a lot of issues going on. We've got a wire on our alternator that is frayed out. That's got to be fixed for sure. And then there's just all this plastic looming everywhere. And I don't mean looming like it's looming over me. I mean, it's just, they put the plastic loom everywhere. But with all that being said, this may be the very final week of us being over here at our palatial estate where we're at right now and moving over to our new place over in North Augusta. I'm not sure about that because it's moving. Nothing is ever sure. It's kind of like doing this stuff. Nothing's ever sure here either. All right, so we are going to go ahead and start digging into the spaghetti noodle mess that we have here of electrical wiring. So we have awesome things like this alternator wire here, which is completely bare and it just pulled off the terminal a minute ago. We're going to completely replace that. We've got these battery cables. The positive is black. That looks like a really bad connection on that lug. We've got some ground issues and we're just going to go through, tidy this all up. This also needs to get flipped over so it's mounted back up here. Just neaten stuff up. So I'm going to go ahead and get to work and enjoy the show. Okay, so that's that. All right, get that out of there.
This does appear to be a fusible link, but it is broke open, copper is exposed, and I'm personally not a huge fan or a believer of fusible links on alternators. If it was really needed, every manufacturer currently would be doing it, but they don't. So don't really believe in them. So we're going to replace that with just this high gauge wire, or a low gauge wire, I should say. Your wiring basically is dependent on your system. You need to know what amps your alternator is going to be putting out, what draw you're actually going to be putting on the system. All that is dependent. So we're just going to put some thick gauge wire that we have, and it'll be good as new. And I'm going to keep going in here and just uncovering the and this is secured with a nut on the backside because people are awesome.
All right, so we're going to be looming this with some different stuff. We don't really care for the corrugated stuff around here. Cam doesn't like it, and I'm not crazy about it either. And the reason we're going to be not using it is it tends to railroad the wires. If you're under a high stress situation going down the road, especially like in big trucks and stuff, that kind of loom that we have on here is really bad for corrugating. What we're going to be using is this stuff that we got from the owner of the car. He's kind of going with a red and black theme because of the outside of it. And I like this stuff. There are some issues with it too, though, because it is a looser system. Dirt and all can get down inside of that over time, and it can probably cause some of the other abrasion problems that you might have with the corrugated. Personally, if I'm going to wrap a wiring harness for myself, I am going to wrap the wiring harness in tape, and I'll use the non-adhesive tape that you can get and the high temperature stuff if I'm working inside the engine bay. What we did is just kind of a test to see if it would work, is we actually went in on this and used the heat shrink over the actual loom itself on this little piece here just to see what it would do. Probably won't do that again. We'll do the recommendation of the manufacturer, which is to wrap it in tape. Regular electrical tape will work for this. Now what we did is we went with a 10-inch positive cable on this. I always recommend do red cable on your positive. If you're ever having to jump the car off, that's going to be an issue. You know, it's easier to find this in the dark as a red cable than it would be to try to find the plus on the battery. Trust me on that one. So we ran a red cable. This is 10. I probably would go 12. None of the local parts stores had a 12-inch cable in stock right now. You're starting to find some of this stuff at this time a little hard to get in the auto parts store. This will tie to this over the top of the battery. I think that'll look just fine for what we've got going on here. All right, we also have gone ahead and loomed this in with the red, and we haven't tied this off and gone in and actually wrapped this with electrical tape. That'll be something we'll be hitting here pretty quick. You have a car that you've got that you don't know what somebody else has done in front of you. So we're having to go in and test things and try to find out what things run to see if we even need them, because there's a lot of things on this car that we could just flat pull off of it. For instance, there is an O2 sensor down here that has the wire on it, and we need to do one of two things. We either need to leave the O2 sensor in play and get a gauge for it so that we can go in and do testing and stuff down the road, or we just ought to pull it out and put a plug in there so we don't have to deal with that and have that wire hanging down and potentially melting to the exhaust pipes. All right, now I'm going to use these on the wiring harness to put them on the shock tower. This is something that Ford used all the way up through like 67 or 68, and they work pretty darn well for this activity. The only problem I have with these is they get a little bit small for when you have a lot of wiring. The big problem we have whenever you're doing a car like this and you start adding stuff to it is the amount of wiring that this car did not have from the factory. There's a ton more going on in this engine bay now than there was back in the day when it was brand new. So I'm going to try to loom this in. I'm going to give you a little tip on how to make these things set. In all actuality, we're probably going to be taking this out. So I'm going to pull this back, strip it back as it were, so I can get that to seat in there. And what I'll do, I'll take a nut driver, like a 5/16, set it on here, and you can push it in. And now that's loomed in fairly nicely. Now keep in mind that we are going to take that back out. These are cheap. You can get tons of them from National Parts Depot. So what we're going to do with this circuit breaker is we're actually going to move it further down, probably right next to this solenoid or a little bit lower, just to get it out of the eye line a little bit. Right now where it sits, it's right up here in your face. The biggest problem we have, honestly, is the fact that this is really short. There's not a lot of play in my wiring harness here to work with it, but we'll drop it down to probably somewhere along in here to get it so it's a little bit lower and out of the line of sight for what we're doing in the engine bay. Up here, it's just right where you can see it. Not crazy about that.
All right, so I'm going to show you a trick on how to organize your spark plug wires cheap and easy. Not as much easy, but very cheap. Your tool is going to be zip ties and also a set of flush cut dikes. All right, so the first zip tie that you're going to use is going to go around all of these spark plug wires that you want to contain with it. You're going to just do that barely to the first couple clicks, and you want to route the zip tie ends so that they are all facing the same way so it can look fancy. All right, next up, you're going to take your zip tie and go through each wire, but around the zip tie that you just put in. Do not tighten these down all the way. You want to get them equally tight on each one of these because that sets the distance between each wire. Right. So now that I have all of these in, I'm going to make sure that the zip ties are all facing the right way. Snug them down a wee bit. And then tighten up the main one. And this main one, the first one that you put on, sets the width of the entire pack of spark plug wires. These ones set the distance between each of them. So now, go in and tighten these up just a little bit. You don't want these very tight. You don't want them to where they're squeezing the spark plug wires and you can see them deforming. That's too much. All right, so now I'm going to take my flush cuts because I'm happy with where it's at now. I'm going to cut all of these as close as possible. If you're going to sell the car and you don't like the person, you can cut them at an angle, because that'll be sure to make friends. All right, now once you're here, flip all of these down, and you are left with a pretty clean, very cheap, and very easy spark plug wire gappers, or whatever you call them. And you can go in as far as you want, down. I've got these so it's set up for cylinders. So each one, this one is the front cylinder, second one back, third one back, fourth one back. Just makes it nice and easy. You can do this on both sides. Bueno.
I know it doesn't look like we've done much here, but in reality, work time, we've been at this off camera from about 10 o'clock this morning until
now it's going on
4 o'clock. And that's not even because of filming. We filmed a lot of this stuff, but it really has nothing to do with that.
This is like the 10% of the build.
But you know what? You and I talked about that off camera. 10% is where all the work is at, and that's where all your...
And where it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That 10% of going in and taking that nth degree detail position on things really will make a car look so much better when you pop the hood, even at just a little car show. People will be like, "Dadgum, that looks really, really nice."
Taking the time to find the right routing of where everything wants to go. Not where it's easiest for you to go take it.
Because there's a lot of easiest for you to take it with the guy who put this thing together out in Cali.
Like just running it over the top.
And it's just so easy to flip that over the other side of the shock tower and not have this hanging out here in the middle of the world. One thing I did want to show you guys, something we were using, we were surging those ends, is this thing right here. It's basically a really nice little tool that we got from Dorman at the auto parts store. We were standing there looking for our connectors, and we saw this, and I said, I'll spend the $26 because I'm like most guys where tools are concerned.
I'll spend the money.
I'll spend the money.
If it makes my life easier.
And it really did. It actually is nice because it's a very small controlled cone of heat. I like this thing. It's conveniently called the Heat tool.
I wonder what it
Dorman.
does. Makes things cold.
Dorman went a long, long way in the marketing department on that one. They thought
Got
that
it.
out. They spent the time.
Somebody was in their office for 3 days. It's what light bulb
That
moment.
The guy's sitting there throwing pencils up at the ceiling, and he has that moment where he says,
Wait, that's due today?
"Yeah, I thought it was next week. Crap, heat tool." I want to be him to be on our team though,
It's like
because
the
he sold that to the people at Dorman.
lazy, give the laziest man the hardest job.
He got everybody all liquored up and said, "Okay, folks,
Listen to this.
this is going to be called the heat tool." And all the people at Dorman said, "Wow,
Makes sense.
that makes sense because it is what it does and does what it says." The heat tool. I like this little thing. We got it at O'Reilly. I got no vested interest in it. It may blow up next week. But for what we're doing with wiring and stuff, if you're doing something like an auto wire harness or anything like that, and you're having to heat shrink on it to get it to shrink down, something like this is actually a pretty darn good idea.
Yeah, that's perfectly controllable. I'm used to using a butane torch, which is very fast. I come from dealership. Speed is everything. You get a little bit of bubbly on the heat shrink. That's the good stuff.
That's the juju.
That's like searing a steak. Caramelized.
Oh my God. You with your caramelizing a steak. You're making me hungry and it's not even time to eat yet. Go check out our Shut up, man. Go check out our Patreon account. At the $10 a month level, we have monthly meetings with me on Zoom as a group. It's a lot of fun. Everybody that's been on so far has told me they've really enjoyed our Patreon meetings. We talk tech, we talk about your cars, we discuss stupid stuff and fun stuff. So it's really great. Plus now we're going to be starting to Patreon only videos where you probably won't be having to hear him pontificate about burning stuff to make a steak, whatever he said. So check that out if you would, and then also subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, click that bell for notification. If you don't click the bell, you ain't gonna know nothing about what we do right here on Auto Restaurant and over at Manic Mechanic. And we're whiling our way to 100,000 subscribers, so please subscribe and help us with that so that we can get that 100,000 subscribers and I can get the little YouTube plaque that I probably have to pay for now.
Gotta pay for shipping.
Probably have to pay for the whole plaque. I don't even think they do the plaques anymore. That was the only thing I wanted, and I realized they probably make you pay for
Get
it.
an email.
Congratulations. You finally made it.
Also, your channel's canceled.
By the way, your channel's canceled. Okay, so that's it, folks. That's our show for the week. Do me a favor and love on each other, like each other, treat each other nice, and we'll see you next time on Auto Resto Mod. Have a great week. You can go home because your back hurts. I'm gonna move that circuit breaker because it's just driving me nuts now that I know what I want to do with it. It was a struggle.
I'm gonna go find some air conditioning.
Good luck.
Forget going home.
This man has been walking around the grocery store for 5 hours.
Only the freezer section.
He's sitting in the ice cream section. Security to aisle 15. Some man's ass print is in my ice cream.
Get out me cave. Get out me swamp.
That's Miss Swamp. Leave. Donkey.